Chinese medicine is different from Western medicine. Not just in its application right now, where it is more similar like Western medicine than anybody realizes, but more in its history, because its origins and its purposes are very different. In brief, Chinese medicine has always been focused on the development of long life. Of course, for the common people, just dealing with the daily pains and ailments and diseases was the main thing. For the wealthy families, taking care of the woman that she wouldn't die at childbirth, or that the child at least could be saved, was another major aspect of Chinese culture. In general, we can say that Chinese traditions of medicine can be separated in two different kind of directions. The external medicine, that is the applied medicine to somebody else, and there is the internal medicine that is applied to yourself. So at the moment, when you look at the applied medicine from outside, then we talk about herbal medicine, but also about acupuncture and massage, something that a therapist does for you. But in the internal medicine, you can talk about the medicine that you apply to yourself through meditation, through exercise, and so on, also through proper eating. There's a tradition, a long tradition of immortals that was described by several Daoist authors, extensively explored in the daozhang. Ge wrote a book about it, and there are several other books about all these immortals and their specialties. When I was in China myself, I collected the ideas of about, I think, something like 80 different Daoists and non-Daoists who were practicing Neidan and Qigong and so on for a long life, and their theories and their ideas in a similar fashion as Ge did. I still have it as part of what is going to be part of the history module of Chinese medicine in the bachelor program. But the main thing is that in these traditions there are a few big names, and the last really big names were Lu Dongbing, they were Chen Chuang, they were Zhang Sanfeng. Zhang Sanfeng, a lot of people think he doesn't even exist, because the mythology about him says that he became 200 years old, about. But the reality is that his materials are there, and lots of this material is already hundreds of years old. And you can say maybe it's falsified, maybe it's not, but at least these ideas are there, and within Taoist history and even within Chinese culture, these things are relevant. And the relevance is actually very high, because it has also inside itself a lot of different kind of wisdoms, which as modern people we could definitely do with also. Because in our modern system, there are a lot of things we can do to lower our life expenses on medicine, and it is by doing things by ourselves, doing practices, exercise like taijigongfu, qigong, daoyin, yoga, meditation, all these kind of things. They help when done in a correct context and in a correct theoretical framework. Because the thing is that when you investigate them with Western medical theories, a lot of things don't make sense because they deal with other things. The process of dealing with yourself, failings, picking up again, succeeding, and so on, that is the alchemical process. And gradually, because of your increasing awareness, because of the meditative qualities that you develop, you start noticing how there are all kind of subtle experiences in your body that can be guided and eventually become a success. When people feel a lot in their body, that is usually their feelings. And the body is being separated in what is called a part that relates to heaven and a part that relates to earth. And the part that relates to earth, that contains your emotions, your feelings. When you feel energy, that belongs to that part, because these are your instinctual feelings. They might not be right. They might be destructive. They might be correct. You don't know. You can't know. And in the same way with the heavenly aspects in yourself, they might be right, they might be wrong. You can be wrong about it, like with interpretation of dreams. Dreams are amazing things. But are they speaking truth? Difficult to know. For some people, they can do something with it. Other people not. And in meditation, you go through a stage where you gradually lift yourself up, both in that direction and in that direction. And you start noticing all kind of things in your dreams as a result of the different stages that you are at. You have to go through these stages before you get to that point. The things that you get before, that is just because you make yourself special. You think you are something, right? And as a result of that, you are easy to fool yourself and to think that you meet immortals or that you do all kinds of other things. That is in Taoism seen as the result of cultivation in the wrong channel. Basically, from the crown there's a channel going downwards, but a little bit before the crown there's also a channel. When you keep your head up like this normally, there's one port before, and it actually goes through the front of your throat, front of your body, goes to your sexual organs, and it's actually nourished by your desires for recognition, your fears for rejection, your anger about all kind of things that go wrong in your life, but also, well, that's about it. All your emotions are coming from these feelings, and in the alchemical process you have to first free yourself from that, so that all this negativity, which includes your happiness and it also includes your sadness and your grief, the things that we think that make us human, because you have to come to a stage in your mind and in your heart where you basically live from the perspective of affinity with everything that is alive. That is, if you don't like a car, who cares? Right? If you don't like a plane, who cares? You know, these are just material things. They make life easier to a particular kind of degree, but they also are inherently karmically negative because of all the damage that they do and that you surround yourself with as a result of that. And as a result of the fact that you surround yourself with these things, according to Taoist discipline, you also are complicit in the damage that's being done to the world and to nature. Within Taoism, there's this general idea that you shouldn't harm your body. You shouldn't cut your hair, you shouldn't cut your beard, you shouldn't trim it. I trim my beard, because otherwise I look like a bushman. Like, I look terrible. I don't cut my hair, but I'm old enough that my hair doesn't grow very much and it rather likes to fall off or die off or something like this because of, the quality of food that we generally get in our lives. It is impossible to get good food. Even if you go to the health food store, most of the food there is also not the best quality. I used to work on a microbiologic farm here in the Netherlands, and they were very proud of the fact that they didn't have to use any pesticides. But that's only because they grew most of the things within 2 kilometers of a railroad, and the railroads are being sprayed with pesticides so much that for a distance of 5 kilometers, things get poisoned by it. But now today, I want to talk with you about Zhang Sanfeng. So far, I have given you a little bit of an idea about what Chinese medicine and what the alchemical process is about and what you want to do, and there's a lot of kind of details on that. But I want to talk with you about one of the texts that I translated from Zhang Sanfeng, and that is a second part of his theory of the alchemical process. Let me talk to you about certain kind of details, and then we go talk about what it actually means. And this is just part of the introduction of this chapter. There are 2 chapters. This is the second one. This is the second one that deals with the explanation of the mysteries. It says, when practicing, one should not cling to action, for action is acquired. This is a common fault among the Taoists today. So few people in the world can truly practice it. One should also not cling to inaction, for inaction leads to stubborn emptiness and decrepitness. This is a common fault among the Buddhists today. So there are very few Buddhist disciples in the world. The reason why this path does not work is because the path is not clear. The path is the Dharma, right? That's not the Tao. People translate Tao very often as the way. It's actually not right. The way or the path is actually referring to the Dharma. At the moment when they talk about the Tao as the thing, that is the thing that actually brings things into being. So that's the boundary between non-being and being, right? And at the moment when we play alchemy, we are trying to put ourselves on this border of being and non-being so that we can be part, or witness at least, of the creation process of being. And as a result of that, can influence ourselves. There's a particular meditation that we do in our Qigong program. This is called Yuanqi meditation. This Yuanqi meditation is there specifically to help us bring heaven and earth together, to compress it so that it actually reverts to its origin. And as a result of its origin, it actually gradually then, because of its connection with us, becomes something else. So then at that moment, our mind has to project a particular kind of want in it, an intention, so to say. And as a result of that, it can actually contribute to your health. That's a healing method. It is a very difficult healing method, and most people never get to that point. It is not difficult, but you have to have the right body posture. You have to have the right management of your body. You cannot just wish it inside yourself. That is just not how it works. The difficult thing with these things is that a lot of people think they have to do a lot. So they manage and they push and they do a lot of things, while Taoism basically says like, no, don't go that way. Don't follow that dharma. It's not a way of hard work. Like when you go to the gym, you work very hard to get big muscles. That is not the Tao. That is not the dharma also. It doesn't really work. You have to make sure that you do not do too much, because you lose your sensitivity when you do. With Qigong, the same. There's a saying that says 3 minutes is too long and 3 hours is too short. And it basically indicates that if you practice and you practice a short time and you don't get it within the first minute or so, then at that moment it means that, you just don't have it. And at the moment when you have it after 3 hours, or not even after 3 hours, you know that you haven't practiced long enough. So there is this continuous search for the right process in the alchemical process. And that as a self-medication method, you only know that you are healed when a problem is not occurring, right? So that means that it might still be regressive. It is not a finished process. When you do alchemy, it is not a finished process. You have to stay busy with it all your life, because every minute that you're not involved in that process, you actually go a little bit backwards because of your stagnation. Then, at the moment when you do not act, you try to become passive, you try to remain passive, and you try to just wait to see what's happening, what most people do. And at that moment, automatically, your health is deteriorating. You're sitting on the sofa, you're watching TV, you go to party, you go to the gym, do something, but you don't really take care of your health or anything like that. You eat, you drink, all the things that you normally do, relatively passive and, accidentally almost. So all these different kind of things, they are actually also not right. And Zhang Sanfeng then says from these people, the Taoists, they try too much. They try to manipulate the system too much. And from the Buddhists, he says, well, they don't try to manipulate the system enough. They try to just wait and see and see what's going to happen. And then he refers specifically to the Chan Buddhists that are facing the wall at that time. So for both groups, he has a little bit of a negative connotation. You have to understand, this is the time of Neo-Confucianism and Neo-Daoism. So the boundaries between Confucianism, Taoism and Buddhism were relatively vague. The Wudang area in itself was very famous for trying to integrate all these three things. The Wudang mountain itself was once claimed by the Mahakala sect of Lamaism, and it was denied, but then Xuanwu came there, and Xuanwu was also a great black god from the north, so it was not that dissimilar. So there was a lot of relationships between these different kind of cults, and they became integrated because the Buddhists who lived there gradually become dissolved into the Daoist community. So the appropriate level of action is what is called usually natural action. That means that you have to have the right kind of feeling to get into the right kind of moment with your acting. That means that doing too much or doing too little restricts you in understanding what needs to be done. So let's go to the second piece. The first step is to extinguish the attachments and get rid of distracting thoughts. Getting rid of distracting thoughts is the first step in building the foundation and refining oneself. Once the human mind is eliminated, the heart of heaven will return. Once human desires are purified, the principles of heaven will always exist. This is exactly what I said at the beginning in my introduction. When you get rid of this part and this part as being dominant in your way of thinking, you do not necessarily put a lot of faith or believe in these kind of things. That is very important. People who are very strict in their faith, whether it's that way or that way, they limit themselves, and as a result of that they are actually becoming deterministic in their outlook, and as a result of determinism actually they lose the freedom to maintain themselves. In the Gongdi Jing, very famous Chinese medicine book, it says in the first chapters, you know, it's the responsibility of the person to not choose for the downfall of human beings. This is basically what it says. No, it's not it is paraphrased, so it's my own words. It's not literally what it says in the Gongdi Jing, but it's basically what it comes down to. It says basically, once you start following your desires, you lose the Jing. And the Jing is the coherence of the body, to make sure that the body is actually doing what it has to do. It's not the fact that you are there, there's something that's continuously being replenished so that your body can stay alive. No, it is in fact the fact that you're continuously managing yourself, holding your body posture, holding the coherence and the construction of your body so that everything is open and all your organs have the space to do the things right. All your blood has the opportunity to do things right. Your mind has the opportunity to do things right. And that means actually that you have to stop clinging to your human needs. You can say, oh, but then being human, is that not good enough? No, actually it's not. Very easy. Being human does not mean that you can just do whatever you want. It's the same like with democracy and freedom of speech. It's not about being free to say whatever you want. It is all about saying the right thing at the right moment. So you have the freedom to speak out at the right time, the right moment, with the right thing, right? Not just whatever you believe or what you think is right. Because like with your eating, you can say, I need cookies. I really need cookies because otherwise I can't be healthy. And you understand from what I'm saying that reasoning is not sound, because everybody knows that cookies are not really very good for you. Delicious, not good. What it says after that is that if you have done that, if you can eliminate all your human desires, attachments, and so on, then at that moment, automatically your heart will be the heart of heaven. That means there will be Tao heart, what Zhang Sanfeng calls Tao heart. And at the moment when you look at the Tao heart, that means that the heart is directed towards this production of immortality. That means that you automatically start having the feeling like this is right and this is not right. It's not an absolute, because every time you have to also test whatever you feel like it is right or not. Because like I said before about this channel, it is easy to fool yourself. And it is more easy to fool yourself than to be right. So that is something that you really have to keep in mind anytime when you are practicing. So what he says also is that every day you should be quiet for a while. Every day you should be quiet for a while. Wait until your body and mind are stable and your breath is peaceful. Then you can close your eyes slightly and look to the area between the heart and the kidneys. 1 inch and 3 points below. Do not be too close or too far. Do not forget or help. All thoughts are gone. Only once in Shun awareness remains. This is called right mindfulness. Mindfulness then is not that what people who practice mindfulness do in general by pointing out all kind of experiences and so on, but mindfulness means basically getting rid of your attachment to all kind of things. Then through your nose, through the tip of your nose, you look to the space between your heart and your kidneys. And this area between the heart, the stomach and the kidneys, this is basically the tripartition which we call San Jiao. And the heart in that sense is separate from the San Jiao, because this space is also including the lungs, the liver, the intestines, and so forth and so forth. All these kind of things, they're all connected with this. And the heart in that sense is the king, because it's on top, it's looking downward at the same time. So when you are practicing meditation and you sit there and you are aware of the whole of the interior, you're aware of the whole of the outside of your body, and you're developing the Dantian gradually as the culmination point of where the yang is going to be developed, but where the yin is at present. The funny thing is that in Chinese medicine they say, oh, everything here below, these are all yang organs. The kidneys are yin, of course, but all the other organs are yang organs. But in fact, what is inside them is just mud and clay and dirt and poop. So as a result of that, this is actually the most yin part of your body. These are the yin organs, but they are relatively self-cleaning. So compared, it's much cleaner and clearer, and that is actually yang. That is also why they rule. They rule because of their weakness. They control because of their dirt, right? So this is very much like in human society. This is also why Taoists say, if you look at your meditation process and the process that is happening inside yourself, if you can behave in a similar kind of fashion as your biology works, you could become a good leader. That means that you have to come to understand that by trying to control things and forcing things, you actually separate yourself from a healthy future. There are many countries in the world that are actually doing that. They're trying to force and control all the time, all kinds of things. And as a result of that, nobody really likes them. In fact, their leaders, they are usually being criticized from all directions. And they can only, through repressing people, they can stay in control. So they have to sue people, they have to kill people, they have to do all kinds of things to make sure that, you know, the resistance against their presence is not big enough. Nature, by nature, doesn't accept these kind of things, so they would normally be wielded out. You can say, well, the survival of the fittest, the strongest has to rule. That is actually not true. When you look at nature, when an animal is very strong and dominant, it also becomes isolated. And when a particular plant species becomes dominant, it also exhausts its nourishment and it will die off. Animals that are breeding and become very dominant and they come everywhere, they are actually eventually going to become extinct. You see, in human beings, we are everywhere. We also become less and less fertile the more developed we become. So as a result of that, we gradually will die back as a result of that. We could extend ourselves very much by learning to behave better. And we don't. And in the alchemical process, it's the same. We could become immortals if we would just behave better. If we would take a little bit more control over where we go and the things that we do, so that it doesn't become too much. So Zhang Sanfeng says then, at this time be active in this thought and leisurely in that breath. That means you do not try to do forced breathing. You know this Wim Hof method and other methods of breathing. You have these methods for rebirthing and so on through breathing. All these kind of things are spectacular, but they're all basically just pointing at corners, but they're not really achieving anything. Sure, it's great if you can stay in cold water for a while. That's not that difficult. There's people who do that by nature, and they don't need all this hot breathing to make their body very warm. They don't have to exhaust themselves to be able to do that. Yes, so they also don't have to go psychotic as a result of the heat that's being produced in their hearts as a result of that. It is not required to have disciplinary breathing to get to a very deep state of meditation or to get into a very deep level of alchemical process. In fact, the forcing of your breathing is going to work against you because it's going to fire you up and it's going to gradually die you. It's going to help you unalive you. And in the same way, when you try to hold your breath to prevent that you're breathing, because then at that moment things will become better because all kind of other stuff will happen. Even though it's true, all kind of things will happen, the non-breathing has to gradually happen to you. That means that you have to become relaxed enough on the inside to make that happen. You can test your brain waves and your nerve tensions and your muscle tensions and so on, and with your mind influence yourself through machines to become more calm, but that is still not meditation. These are all rules of control. They are principles of control, and as a result of that, they are the opposite of the meditation process, as Zhang Sanfeng explains. That is why machines cannot help people. You know, they are useful in some circumstances, because if somebody is paralyzed and they can walk through a machine, that is really great. If somebody is blind and because of electronics he can perceive or she can perceive the world, that is really great. So on this level, you know, medicine really also is very helpful. But at the moment when you try to influence your meditation process through electronics, it is not anymore meditation. You're being controlled by a machine. Even though your mind is sending it, you are basically one of the people in the robot wars from the universe, where at a certain point everybody had to fight against the robots to make people even stay alive. The current wave of AI seems to imitate basically this kind of stories, because people, they're either opportunistic or they are passive. When they're opportunistic, they try to take too much control. When they are passive, they just allow it to happen. They will just see what's going to happen. And as a result of that, things will go wrong eventually. So a participatory but relaxed fashion of doing things actually is the most valuable one, both for your private life, as far as for your career, and for your health. So let's keep it at this and try to see how that is going to work out for you. Let me know after watching this video how you are doing, what you think you have learned from this video, and if you actually could use more, because we have a big program for that and you're welcome to participate in that program, of course. Thank you very much. Look at the links below to see what you can do.